Nathaniel Abraham was just 11
Yo,
years
bro.
old when he found himself in the
I saw
middle
this
of one
video.
of the most controversial murder
I saw this
cases
video
in the history
and I
of the United
instantly thought of Lil Yummy. If you don't know who Lil Yummy is, just go look it up. Just go type it in. Lil
States of
Yummy.
America. The case scandalized the country, and almost everyone responded with outrage.
He was 11 years old too.
But the folks on Nathaniel's block, his own neighbors, well, they weren't particularly shocked. He might have
What
been
the fuck
little,
that supposed to
measuring
mean?
no more than 4 feet and weighing a little under 65 pounds, but he was also a thorn in the side of everyone in the neighborhood, a danger to the community.
He threatened my
A menace to
grandsons all the time.
society.
He threw rocks at my mom's house. I mean, he was dangerous.
He was just
she
a
wasn't
badass
alone.
little kid.
Another neighbor, an 11-year-old girl, shared a similar sentiment because, according to her, when they were both 9, Nate had threatened her with a gun.
Oh
So,
shit,
as Nathaniel
Nate!
Abraham's murder case began to take its hold in the center of public consciousness, it became
Damn,
clear
Nate, how you
the
even know how to
entire
do
plot
that,
turned
nigga?
against
What the fuck was I doing when I was 11? Nigga, I probably was playing on the playground, fool. Like what? They talking about? He said. She
As
said
disturbing
when
as
they
these
were 9.
allegations
No, what was I
sounded,
doing when I was
it
9?
seemed
I
like
probably
they
was
were
playing.
true.
I was playing
All of
pee wee
these neighbors
football.
wanted him locked up, except one. Only one neighbor on Nate's block came to his defense when the cameras started rolling.
Oh,
he didn't try to
shit.
downplay or dismiss claims about the boy.
I think that's crazy for him to be charged as an adult. He was only 11 years old.
That is crazy though.
This neighbor was convinced
But
that
look
the
at his
little
skin
boy
color.
wasn't the devil. He was just a broken child who made terrible decisions. This man had also experienced a version of Nate that his neighbors had.
And that dog whooping his ass.
He wanted the government and the prosecutors to go easy on the young boy. Why? Because Nathaniel Abraham was an 11-year-old boy charged with the murder of an 18-year-old named Ronnie
Oh
Green.
wow.
Because in the most controversial turn of events, the state of Michigan was willing and ready to try him as an adult due to
Oh
the
my
severity
God.
of his crime. And if they found him guilty, if the prosecutors were able
They was gonna
to
send him
get
fucking
what they
prison?
wanted, little Nate would spend the rest of his life.
Oh
in prison
hell
for
nah,
a
that's
crime he
crazy as a
committed
motherfucker,
when He
man.
was just 11. Some of you watching would say murder is murder regardless of the age. That's what makes the intricacies of this story all the more interesting. Let me set the record straight before we dive into this case. The true victim in this story was 18-year-old Ronnie Green. Nate was
Right.
a preteen who killed a teenager, and now he had
Wait,
to face
why
the
though?
consequences. So, what went wrong? We have to trace the thread back to the very beginning.
Damn, this nigga
Medical
neck long
assistant
as
in
a
less than 7 months.
motherfucker.
Let me show you how. You're not gonna believe how easy this is.
And I'm
Just head
not
over to
lying.
MedSurg, chose a program.
Pontiac, Michigan, 1980.
Hey, that what DDG
Months
from,
after he was
nigga.
born, his father left and never
Shout out my nigga DDG.
returned.
Pontiac on top
This
type
sudden
shit.
change resulted in incredible hardship for the family because Nate wasn't the only child. There were 6 of them. His mother, Gloria, was
Shit, how
forced
Nate
to
end up
pick
like that?
2 jobs to keep their
Hey, what
family
the
afloat.
fuck?
She had to work day
My mama name Gloria.
and night. So,
Ain't talking
he
about
was
my
never
mama
around.
is it? My mama ain't had no secret
Nate's
life. I
formative
ain't.
years were
I
spent
ain't know
under the
about
care
that.
of his older siblings. Gloria was caught between a rock and a hard place.
had to-
Between spending time
had to
raising
go
her
ask her
children
about that
or
shit
working
tomorrow.
hard to ensure they didn't starve to death. It's no easy dilemma. However, this whole situation turned out to be the perfect storm for something dark within Nate. With no one to keep him in check, Nate became delinquent. From the moment he could walk, he began
Bro came up with that word, a delinquent. Like, how you even put that shit
to
together?
exhibit extreme
How do you put words together? Behavior. Extreme.
extremely antisocial behavior. Many kids show these
Exhibit.
traits when they're young. Parents corrected and rooted out, but no one was around to do that for Nate. So it grew into something so ugly that by the
Type
time that
shit.
he was 9, he had become a
Hey, he got that
troublesome
KD
child
cut.
with a rap sheet of a serious middle-aged criminal. From the age of 9
God
to
damn, Nate,
11,
what the fuck you had
Nate
going on in the
22
streets?
Police encounters. Some for
22?
arson, a couple of others for assault, and several.
Bro, you fucking lying. You telling me this 9, 10, 11-year-old going around beating motherfuckers' ass? Alright, come on, dog.
Breaking and entering. Out of those 22, at least 5 involved the use of a weapon. One involved a 14-year-old that he beat with a steel
Damn,
pipe,
Nate.
and the last involved an adult, a bus driver. At some point, he became such
Boy,
a
Nate
problem
ain't
in the
give a
neighborhood
fuck,
that
did it?
The prosecutors would later reveal in court that a neighbor moved out of the block because of him. That same neighbor would also say, quite prophetically,
He's
that
19.
someday Nate was going to kill somebody.
Damn.
Now, you are probably wondering
prophecy
what Nate's
came
mother did during
true.
this period. At some point, she began to feel helpless when almost every day there was someone knocking on their door reporting Nate's latest crime. One major
Ooh,
reason
I
why
hate to
she
be a
felt
parent with a
helpless
kid
was
like
because
that,
she had
man.
actually gone to the police for help. She wanted
Those some
them to intervene in her son's
strong
situation,
individuals. I
but
don't know if I
they
can handle
referred
all
her
that.
to the juvenile court. And when she got there, they sent her back to the police, telling her that her word wasn't enough. No one was prepared to help. Nobody was ready to intervene. Now, remember when
They
I
were
said
finna
Nate
put my
was
nigga
born
Nate in
into a
prison
perfect
with the
storm?
grown-ups.
There was one more piece left for the chaotic future
11.
now destined to have. The 1980s was a very interesting decade in American history. Ronald Reagan became president.
What the fuck? How we
CNN
started
became
talking about Ronald Reagan, CNN, the NBA in the
There were those
1980s?
interesting-looking Macintosh computers, and then there was violence. Widespread violence in major cities like New York and Chicago. However, the most troubling part
What
of
the
the
fuck they got to
1980s
do
was
with
the spike
this,
in
though?
the level of violent crimes committed by juveniles.
Oh.
Between 1980 and 1994, the number of juvenile homicide offenders doubled. And according to FBI clearance statistics from that time frame, the juvenile responsibility for all homicides in the
God
country
damn.
grew from 5% to 10%. The quick answer to why this
Motherfuckers
was
don't
happening
give a
was
fuck.
the crack epidemic of the mid-1980s. In the inner cities, it had become a plague, and it wasn't long before
Teens
those
was doing
drugs
that
got
shit, though,
paired
for
with
real?
guns and juveniles. Now, the progression from drug trade to gun violence isn't surprising. In fact, many would agree it's natural and expected. But how did kids get into the mix? Well, drug
Yeah, they shouldn't have
traffickers
put that
at
shit in
the
the
time
streets,
found
bruh.
that children and teenagers made excellent recruits, better than adults. Children worked as low-level sellers, carriers, and
Working the
lookers, while
motherfucking
working for
corner,
less, taking
working the
greater
motherfucking
risks,
block.
and
Hey,
escaping
you know what it
detention.
is.
Because at the time, no one would have guessed that an 11-year-old standing on a street corner was a drug dealer. And even when these kids got caught, their age implied innocence, and it meant that they escaped punishment. From the drug dealer's perspective, these juveniles were beyond perfect.
Had shit going
It
on. They
wasn't
were
long
crazy.
before
Oh,
these
chill the
same
fuck
people-
out, y'all niggas. Hey, who the fuck this is with the pistol right here? Finna blow my nigga down. What they got going on? They just banging on them. They just banging on them, God.
Came in contact with guns and began using them for their own protection, even if they didn't need to. They aspired to use them because guns had become a status symbol for the drug-dealing lifestyle that these kids now wanted to be a part of. And that's
how it is now. It's still like that, man. These motherfuckers think that gun
why
make
just
them
a
hard,
decade
bro.
earlier in 1976, records showed that less than 2/3 of juvenile homicide offenders used a gun. And by 1994, 82% of juveniles used a gun in cases of homicide. This was the background of Nate's childhood. And while
Like,
there's
no
no
fucking
record
way,
of
bro.
drug dealing activity on his juvenile record, it wouldn't be wild to suggest that he found himself in that crowd, and that it was that crowd that enabled his truancy.
Look at this nigga, bro. He don't even know what's really going on right now, bro. And they trying to try this man as an adult, bro. Look at the look in his
Where
face.
else
He
do
don't
you
know
think
what
he
the
got
fuck
gun he
happening.
used? His mother didn't own a gun. Now, as expected, the government's response to this spike of violent, gun-fueled juvenile delinquency was to turn to the law. So, as the 1980s progressed, a growing number of states passed laws stipulating that kids under 17 could be tried as adults for certain crimes.
Wow.
It was a weird way to deal with the problem because they weren't seeking direct solutions. They were just adding to the punishment. Supporters of this law who happened to be
They knew what they were
civilians
doing.
like you and me took to the streets, waving banners and slogans that read, "Adult crime, adult time." And by
Man, get the fuck
1992,
out of
more
here.
than 40 states had passed laws for trying children as adults. But
Not
no
11,
state
fool.
version of the juvenile
Like, 11
justice
is
law
crazy.
matched the severity of Michigan.
Like, bro, you in what? You in
Michigan,
like
the same
5th
state
grade
that
when you
Nathaniel
11?
Abraham was born in, raised in, and would commit his devastating crime and set no limits on the age that a child could be tried as an adult. They called their law Get Tough on Juvenile Offenders. In fact, when one of the state senators who pushed for this law was asked if a child as young as 4 could be tried as an adult, his answer was a resounding yes.
Get the fuck out of here.
Nathaniel Abraham's crime. And 3 years after that law was passed in 1997, when 11-year-old Nathaniel Abraham shot 18-year-old Ronnie Green, he became the scapegoat of a law that set the scene for the country's most controversial juvenile murder trial to date. On the 31st of October, 1997,
that boy is 11 years old.
In Lincoln Middle School, there were police officers in the 6th grade class, and
they
were reading their rights.
Come
Not to
on,
the class teacher, but to 11-year-old Nathaniel Abraham.
Come on, bro, what we doing, bro?
On the 30th of October,
what is we really doing, bro? Just walk to a 6th grade classroom to apprehend a student, an 11-year-old student. Man, what has the world come to?
An 18-year-old boy named Ronnie Green had passed away after fighting for his life for almost 24 hours. He had been shot in the head by
Damn, Nate, come on, dog. I understand, like, what happened and what he did and the severity of this entire situation, but I just feel like the punishment, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
A single bullet.
I just feel like for an 11-year-old, bro, like, yeah, I'm sure he know he did what he did, but I don't think he really understand what he did.
As investigators scrambled to find out who this killer was, they discovered that on the day before, 11-year-old Nathaniel Abraham had stolen a .22 caliber rifle and gone shooting outside. He shot at a neighbor's house first, narrowly
shooting at the neighbor's house is crazy, Nate. Damn, Nate.
And moments later, he stood in a cluster of trees about 200 feet away from a convenience store, took aim, and fired a bullet that would hit 18-year-old Ronnie Green in the head and kill him roughly a day later. While Nate admitted that he was the one who shot Ronnie, he denied targeting him. Instead, he claimed that he was only aiming for light bulbs and trees. The shot that killed Ronnie Green was, by his own admission, an unfortunate error.
Oh my God.
Weren't buying it. Despite the fact that the 11-year-old boy had never met Ronnie Green before the shooting, they were convinced that he had deliberately set out to kill someone that day. If you're wondering what fueled the prosecutor's conviction, well, they had evidence that Nate had spoken to his girlfriend, saying that he was going
Bro, what you mean spoke to his girlfriend? They saying this shit like this nigga grown as fuck. This nigga 11. And rest in peace to Ronnie Green, man.
On the morning of Ronnie Green's tragic demise. And that, after the shooting, he had bragged about the kill he made to his friends.
Oh my God, Nate, what the fuck you got going on?
Juvenile offenders law,
you tweaking, fool.
To try Nate as an adult, charging him with first-degree murder and several other felonies. Nate was arrested, placed in handcuffs, and he was sent to Oakland County Children's Village, a juvenile detention center in Michigan, while he awaited trial. The arrest was deeply controversial. Controversial enough to deeply divide the country along several ethical lines. While there were many unwilling to contribute to the discussion, there were many more who thought that this was a fitting punishment for the 11-year-old Nate. There was an overwhelming majority, especially in the black community, who were against the decision. Amnesty International, Reverend
like, bro, who really, like, looking at this 11-year-old and be like, man, we're gonna try his ass like an adult and send his ass to federal prison for a federal crime.
And probably every major civil rights activist in the country protested against the whole affair, calling it a disgrace to the justice system.
That is crazy.
That protect children, delinquent or not. Like I noted earlier, they were trying to try him as an adult, and if he was found guilty, he would be sent to prison for the rest of his life. One lawyer was outraged enough by the case that he chose to take it on pro bono at no cost to Nate's family. This lawyer was named Jeffrey Feiger. He was a lawyer who, up to that point, had built a reputation for taking on most cases that lawyers wouldn't touch.
Oh, he's that type of guy. Isn't he kind of like Donald Trump?
A man named Jack Kevorkian, also known as Dr. Death. Jack
Oh, he was
Kevorkian
on some
was
nut
an
shit.
actual doctor with the rap sheet of a comic book villain. On his rap sheet, the man had advocated harvesting the organs from death row inmates.
Oh,
While he was a
wow.
pathologist, he experimented with transfusing blood from the recently deceased into live patients.
What the fuck?
Is she texting someone
Talk
behind
about
your back?
freaky ass
A single
shit.
Spokio search can help you find out. who
I'm
she's
telling you, it's
messaging.
some sick motherfuckers in the
He
world.
did a lot of bizarre, unethical things throughout his career as a doctor, but the most controversial one, the one that got Geoffrey Feiger representing him as his attorney in court, involved assisted suicide in Michigan.
What we
Kevorkian's
talking
story
about?
is worthy of its own video, so I won't go down that rabbit hole. Just know that while Nate's situation was controversial, it was not new to Jeffrey Feiger. And immediately he took on Nate's case. He began a series of motions and appeals that delayed the trial for at least 2 more years, enough time for him to prepare. On the
Bro, they was
29th
really
of
trying to
October,
put this little nigga
1999,
under.
the
They
trial
was,
began.
bro, they was trying to put his ass under the jail. They was throwing the book at this little nigga, man.
Nate's first appearance in court looked like something from a really dark SNL sketch. He was dressed in oversized prison garb. There were cuffs on his
God.
wrists and chains on his
He
feet.
hilarious.
When he was asked to raise his right hand, he raised his left.
Oh no! Oh no! Bro, we put this little motherfucker in jail. He said he was asked to raise his right hand, and he raised his left. Oh my God!
The hearings,
This
he would
shit
start
is terrible.
sobbing, and for most of the trial, he looked lost. But prosecutors and the politicians who supported this law were hell-bent on seeing it through to the end.
They ought to be ashamed of their motherfucking shells, man. Hey, I understand. I promise you, I understand. I'm not downplaying this shit, but come on.
In her opening statement, the prosecutor, Lisa Haluska, dramatically wrote down those words for the jury to read. She claimed that these were the words that 11-year-old Nate told his girlfriend days before the killing. As the trial progressed,
Like, they keep saying
the
this
prosecutor
girlfriend
called
shit, like,
witnesses
what?
Who supported the idea that Nathaniel's act was, in fact, a premeditated murder. According to the witnesses, he had stolen the rusty rifle he used, then practiced target shooting at balloons. and
Oh
the
wow, so they
houses.
saying this nigga stole the gun, went to target practice, and then used his target practice to shoot at. Alright, bro.
Before the fatal shooting of Ronnie Green.
Alright, bro.
Later, the prosecutor would also note that
Bro, do
Nate
you know the thought process behind that, bro? I just don't think an 11-year-old can make that scenario. Like, I just
told the
don't think
police
he'll
contradicting
like.
stories about the shooting.
I don't
which,
think he'll
according
think
to
like
her,
that.
Was proof that he knew what he had done and that it was wrong. When it was Geoffrey Feiger's turn, he argued that the shooting was an unfortunate accident. He didn't dispute the fact that Nathaniel fired the gun, but he insisted that the boy was not trying to hit anyone. Feiger brought an expert marksman to stand as a witness who testified that it would have been almost impossible to deliberately hit a small target from more than 200 feet, which was the approximate distance Nate was from the victim. And it was even more unlikely because the rifle he used was old and battered. Later, Feiger called on child psychologists to describe Nathaniel's mental state. According to these experts, Nate had an IQ of 7.
What the
and
fuck?
at the time of the murder,
I'm
his
saying what-
thought process were like those of a 6-year-old. Feiger tried to prove
Wait,
that Nathaniel lacked
what's the average
impulse
IQ?
control and the mental capacity
Damn,
to form
baby.
the intent to kill. However, the prosecution brought their
Damn,
own
girl. Why she keep calling me like that? 2 FaceTimes of mobile, and then the what shit? She sent me a tank
to
game.
stand as a witness, and he rebutted the claim that
I'm calling
Nate
back in a
didn't
second.
form an
Yeah.
intent to kill. Nate's case was a
Fuck, she
delicate
calling me again. I gotta answer. Hello?
I know your ass was fucking sleep. Why the fuck you ain't answer my phone? I ain't coming. Don't worry about it.
If you were in front of the family of the deceased, how could you say your son's killer was just a child?
What?
In a way,
What?
there was
Like, that's
something
crazy
odd
as fuck
about
to
the
say,
entire
bruh.
premise of the case, because if Nate had been a 30-year-old man who was examined by a court psychologist and determined to have the mental capacity of a 6-year-old, would a 30-year-old Nate still be tried?
Oh,
But wait,
fuck
the
no.
plot thickens, because the
Shit
Constitution
getting
also
weird.
stipulates that Nate be tried by a jury of his peers. And we both know that there is no way the court was going to do a preteen jury selection in an elementary school. So the jury that was hearing Nate's case were all adults. There were constitutional gaps that this murder trial allowed. When a journalist confronted the prosecution about it, they argued that the adult nature of Nate's crime and the severity of the consequences of his crime on the victim's family was what justified the jury of adults. At the end of the day, the truth was,
Bro, they throwing the
even
book
though
at this
2
little nigga.
years
They
had
trying to get
passed
him
since he
they trying to get him
committed the crime and
gone.
Nathaniel Abraham was now 13. He was still too young to drive a car,
What's happening?
too young to drink, too young to vote. And as a direct consequence of this, people still argue that he should have been too young to be tried as an adult.
He is too young to be
In the
tried
final
as an
days of
adult.
the trial, the prosecutors began seeking a compromise. No more first-degree murder charges. Now they were
talking about random
asking
stuff.
the presiding judge, on Nate's behalf, to allow the jury to consider a lesser offense. Whether this was out of goodwill or because there was no victory in sending an 11-year-old to life behind bars, but no one knows. What we do know is that it worked, and
No,
on
I'm
the
watching a
16th of
video.
November 1999, Nate was found guilty of second-degree murder, which still made him the youngest American to be ever convicted of murder as an adult.
Oh my
And
god.
there were 3 options on the table for the judge. The first was the harshest, a prison term of 8 to 25 years. The second option was more moderate, blended sentence, and it would see Nate go to a juvenile.
Hey girl, you think you could send an 11-year-old kid to prison?
What he do, murder?
He murdered an 18-year-old boy.
What he do? He shot him
Yes.
one time?
Yeah.
No. What he do?
Man, they said he stole a gun, a rifle, and he went like shooting at balloons and trees and shit. And he was target practicing. He said then he went somewhere else and he was shooting, trying to hit light bulbs and trees. I guess he was at a store. And then he hit a boy that was walking. He didn't even know him. He just hit him. He hit him.
No, not breathing.
Say what?
No, not breathing.
Bro, they trying to try him as an adult, bro. Like they throwing the book at him, shit. They trying to get him gone.
Detention center. By the time he turned 18,
You know it.
I would have.
if he was properly rehabilitated, he would be released.
Like
If not, he would be transferred to an adult prison after turning 21 to serve the rest of his 25-year sentence.
crazy.
This is what the prosecutors wanted. This is what they pushed for, but it wasn't what
Then they kept delaying it so they can get him to age up. That's crazy as hell.
To their surprise, the judge went for the third option, which was the most lenient. Nate would be sent to a juvenile detention center, and he would stay there till he was 21, after which
And
he would become a free man. And
W
at the age
Judge.
of 13, Nathaniel Abraham began what was supposedly a long road of rehabilitation. The state had less than 8 years to rehabilitate Nate. Would they succeed? On the 13th
I
of
hope so.
January 2000, Nate was placed in the care
y'all
of the
know he-
Michigan Department of Human Services for treatment and rehabilitation. Then he was moved to Maxie Boys Training School. And to everyone's surprise, by August of that very year, he began to show signs of responsibility. Throughout 2001, he passed all of his classes, and he
Tight
was praised
shit.
for his academic performance in math, reading, and note-keeping. By 2003,
Shout out my nigga Nate.
Nate was described as a leader within his group. He displayed a positive attitude, took on additional work, and followed directions. At this point, his supervisors decided it was time to get him to work in the real world.
Yeah.
So at the age of 17, Nate began working in a Goodwill store.
Yeah.
And before long, his employers at the store indicated that he displayed good communication skills and that he was courteous with the customers. Eventually, on the 18th of December, and at the age of 18, Nathaniel earned his GED. The following year, he would earn his high school diploma, and eventually, he was just 1 year away from his release. So, was Nate rehabilitated? Had the juvenile system succeeded in transforming the 11-year-old
Hell
into
no.
a functioning member of society? He had shown constant progress through the years, and the world was about to find out if they had succeeded.
The
If
way
you
that sounds
noticed,
so
the
bad.
reports I relayed to you felt a little bit too clean, too sugary. Something was off. Well, you can blame me for that because I deliberately omitted some details.
Like what?
Nate had an anger issue. To be quite frank, he had a lot of issues.
Told you.
Enough of them to require several disciplinary actions taken against him. Nate had an affinity for getting into fights, even though he never really started them. He had a pattern of yelling at prison
Crash
staff.
out.
During basketball games or any competitive sports, Nate had the tendency to get heated. He also had sticky fingers and had been caught
Oh,
more
he
than
just-
once
he just-
stealing
he
cleaning
just a
supplies
motherfucking
to give to
dog.
his girlfriend. Again, most
He's
of
still-
these
like, what he
missteps
stealing
were seen
supplies
as
for?
just that, missteps, normal for any youth. What mattered was that he no longer participated in the crimes he had committed when he was 9. Remember, larceny, malicious destruction of property, assault and illegal entry, murder? Nathaniel Abraham hadn't killed anyone in the 8 years since the trial. So on the 18th of January 2007,
Chill out, pimp. Looking like a Tyler Perry movie star.
spending nearly a decade in juvenile detention, Nate was free, released into society.
Looking like a nigga
He
named
was a free
Lucius.
man. I wish this was the end of the story, and I wish I could wrap it up here
You
with some
can do
Disney-esque
it, Pimp
happily ever after.
Lucius.
But unfortunately,
Come
there were
on,
more
y'all.
issues
Say it with me
ahead for Nate.
now.
For the first
You
18
can
months
do
of his
it,
newfound
Pimp
freedom,
Lucius.
nothing remotely criminal or remarkable happened to Nate. Unfortunately,
said-
in May of
I
2008,
said-
Nate
I
was
said-
arrested
I
again in Pontiac
You can
with
do it,
254
Pimp
ecstasy
Lucius.
pills in a liquor bottle bag. He
Wait,
was
wait,
sentenced
hold
to
on, hold
4 to 20
on,
years
wait,
in
he
prison
did
for ecstasy.
what?
Nothing remotely criminal or remarkable happened to Nate. Unfortunately, in May of 2008, Nate was arrested again in Pontiac with 254 ecstasy pills in a liquor bottle bag.
Come on, Nate, what we doing? Nate, what we doing? This nigga just can't not get caught. He just can't not
He was
get caught.
sentenced to 4 to 20 years in prison, but eventually got paroled in June 2017. Did the rehabilitation fail, or was this just another misstep that Nate would learn from? Well, consider this.
Man.
After he was discharged from parole in July of 2018, on the 6th of August of that same year, Nate got into more trouble with the police
Fuck.
after he exposed himself in front of a 46-year-old neighbor
Fuck,
who
Nate.
declined his offer to cut her lawn. 2 days after that incident, he struck deputies who tried to take him into custody for skipping a court appearance. He was charged with resisting and obstructing police.
Oh,
Punishable
they
by up
knew
to
they
4
were
years in
trying to.
prison.
They were
Had the
trying to
system
get this
failed
nigga
Nate,
gone.
or was this his own doing? Or better still, undoing? In 2019, Nate, who is now 33, was handed a 6 to 40 year prison sentence.
Bro, this
for
nigga
selling
been
drugs
in and
to
out the
an
prison
undercover
system his
police
whole
officer
fucking
in
life.
Farmington,